just lucky. He's lucky.
Yeah.
He was able to just go through the back and forth.
Seeing at 6 p.m., I'd like to call the April 17th regular meeting of the Kenai City Council order and ask if you're able, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Dothett,
Yes.
Councilmember Baisden,
Here.
Councilmember Sonart,
Here.
Vice Mayor Naxted,
Here.
Councilmember Daniel,
Here.
Mayor Gabriel,
Here.
Councilmember Askin.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next we have, before we get to agenda approval, I'd like to call your attention to the laydown you should have in front of you with the requested additions to the packet. Add to item H3, action approval, special use permit to Jeremy Mastery, doing business as River Rock Outdoors, amendment memo and substitute special use permit requested by administration. Pleasure, Council. Vice Mayor Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move for approval in the consent agenda with the add item H3 and request removal of H3 from the consent. Request unanimous consent.
Second.
Is there anybody on the body that would like to amend the agenda or consent agenda at this time? Seeing nobody willing to make amendments, we'll move to ask the clerk to please read the consent agenda into the record, please.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Approval of the regular meeting minutes of April 3rd, 2024, brought to you by the city clerk. New business, action approval, bills to be ratified, brought to you by the administration. Action approval, purchase orders and purchase order amendments requiring council approval in accordance with KMC 715-020, brought to you by the administration. Introduction of ordinance number 3409-2024, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations in the general fund, police department, and accepting grants from the United States Department of Justice and Alaska Municipal League Joint Insurance Association for the purchase of ballistic vests, brought to you by the administration. Public hearing on May 1st, 2024. Introduction of ordinance number 3410-2024, accepting and appropriating grant received through Maddie's Fund to the Kenai Animal Shelter for the care of animals, brought to you by the administration. Public hearing on May 1st, 2024. And introduction of ordinance number 3411-2024, amending Kenai Municipal Code 13.10.015 minor offenses fine schedule to increase the paid parking fine and make housekeeping changes, brought to you by the administration. Public hearing on May 1st, 2024, and that is your consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is anybody from the general public like to speak to any item that's on the consent agenda which was just read into the record? Seeing nobody in chambers or online, we'll bring it back to council. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the agenda and consent agenda are approved. This evening, we have no administrative reports. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to the council at this time on any item that is not on the agenda or consent agenda? Ms. Springer.
Hi, everybody. So I gave everybody the brand new hot off the press delivered today 2024 Kenai Visitor Guide, and also what we are using instead of the walking map tour for the Kenai Chamber for this year until we get all that sorted out. I also brought our new employee. This is Brittany Carr. She replaced Liam as the recruitment and development coordinator. And then I did hire for both the administrative assistant and the cultural center coordinator to start July 1st. So we will be fully staffed July 1. And other than that, there's lots going on. We definitely need volunteers. So if anybody is down to do that, if you go onto our website, there's literally a volunteer link. And I would really love to see you guys at all the events coming up. Otherwise, check out our calendar and see everything that's going on. So make it short and sweet today.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Springer? Councilmember Baisden.
Thank you, Ms. Springer. So on page 23 is the river tide tables. Can you tell us what day the best fishing is going to be this summer?
Oh, absolutely. I would say August 22nd for silvers. Anything else?
Any other
And her
questions?
husband has a spot available for you.
Yeah, I can book you.
Unrelated, but just since you're here, I'd like to thank you again for hosting us today over at the Chamber for the State of the City address.
Of course. That was a great presentation.
Further comments? Thank you, Samantha. Is there anybody else from the general public that'd like to address the council at this time on any item that's not on the agenda or consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to public hearings. E1, ordinance number 3407-2024, accepting and appropriating a volunteer fire assistant grant from the United States Department of Agriculture Forest Service, passed through the State of Alaska Division of Forestry for the purchase of forestry firefighting equipment. Pleasure, council. Councilmember Naxton, or Vice Mayor Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I move to enact ordinance 3407, 2024.
I'll second it.
Is there anybody from the
Council, excuse me, Councilmember Baisden?
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Naxton?
Yes?
Councilmember Daniel?
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel?
Yes.
Councilmember Askin?
Yes.
Councilmember Dothit?
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance 3407, 2024 is enacted.
Thank you. Next up, we have item E2, ordinance number 3408-2024, accepting and appropriating a State of Alaska Code Blue fiscal year 2025 grant passed through the Southern Region EMS Council Incorporated to purchase 2 video laryngoscopes. And I hope I said that right, laryngoscopes. What is that? Laryngoscopes. And I understand it's something to do for intubating people, is what and I guess we can get to that. Pleasure, council, Vice Mayor
I
Naxton.
had to pull out my dictionary
Yeah.
on this one, by the way. I move to enact ordinance 3408, 2024.
I second.
Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to speak to ordinance number 3408-2024? See, now we'll bring it back to council. I'll defer to our expert up here, Councilmember Baisden. That way.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Since the fire chief's not here, a laryngoscope, the video laryngoscope is a great tool for our paramedics because you're right, whenever somebody needs to be intubated, this will allow them to be able to see down into the patient as they place those tubes. So it, very, very good life-saving tool. I'm glad they're getting these. I would support it.
Very good. Further comments from council, deliberation? Thank you for that. Councilmember Baisden, please, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sonart?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Naxton?
Yes?
Councilmember Daniel?
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel?
Yes.
Councilmember Askin?
Yes.
Councilmember Dothit?
Yes.
Councilmember Baisden?
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance 3408, 2024 is enacted.
Thank you. Next up, we have item E3, resolution number 2024-14, authorizing a contract award and corresponding purchase order for professional architectural and engineering services for the water treatment plant pump house project. Pleasure, council. Vice Mayor Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt resolution 2024-14. Request unanimous consent.
I'll second it.
Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to speak to resolution 2024-14? See nobody in chamber or online, so we'll bring it back to council. Comments from council, deliberation? Councilmember Baisden.
Thank you, Mayor. No deliberation, maybe just an overview from the city manager would be great for the public.
Mr. Eubank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Baisden. So this resolution will allow us to award a design contract for the pump house design. The city has a term contract with HDL Engineering for engineering and design services for our water and sewer utility. I believe we just extended that contract for the 5th and final year of it, but they are our contractor under contract. So this will allow them to start that design. And remember, this is the, we got that $1.2 million loan offer from the state of Alaska with 100% loan forgiveness. This is that project. So they're going to get going on design, looking at likely construction late this year or early in 2025 is the hope.
Further discussion? I'm sorry, was unanimous consent requested? Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, resolution number 2024-14 is adopted. That brings us to item E4, resolution number 2024-15, approving amendments to the agreement for contract services for Vintage Point Manor Congregate Housing Pleasure Council. Vice Mayor Nakstad.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt Resolution 2024-15, request unanimous consent.
Second.
Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to speak to resolution 2024-15? Seeing none in chamber or online, we'll bring back to council. Comments, deliberation? Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Councilor next, or Vice Mayor Nexon.
Well, no objection, but Kathy is here, but Mr. Sadler, the people that I have talked to have been very happy with him there at the Congregate Housing, and he's very attentive and whatnot. That's been my experience there. I didn't know if Kathy had anything more to say, but I think we're all in agreement.
Yeah, and I've heard the same thing. A lot of positive comments regarding his service to the folks over there. Appreciate that. Seeing no objection to unanimous consent, resolution number 2024-15 is adopted. That brings us to item H7, new business action approval, authorizing a letter of support for House Bill 173 to raise the threshold for municipal contracts qualifying for Little Davis Bacon. Oh, that's right. Sorry. I think there was an amendment on that. Sorry, that brings us to item H3, action approval, which was pulled from the consent agenda, special use permit to Jeremy Mastery, doing business as River Rock Outdoors LLC for commercial operations at the Kenai Municipal Airport Floatplane Basin. Vice Mayor Naxton.
I moved to amend the special use permit by substitute special use permit, request unanimous consent.
I'll second it.
Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to speak to this action item? And, oh. Okay, yeah.
Apologize, since it was not a resolution, I didn't know we had to do that. Okay, I moved to approve the special use permit for Jerry Mastery.
I'll second.
Request unanimous consent.
Discussion on the motion? Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection?
Now we need the motion to amend by substitute, and then I should vote on as amended.
Oh, yeah, now I move to amend the special use permit by substitute the special use permit and request unanimous consent.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion to amend by substitution? Seeing none, we are now considering the substitute ordinance. Vice Mayor Naxton.
Since this came to us as a laydown, and the memo does indicate what the changes are, but I thought perhaps the city manager or attorney, whoever's appropriate here, might want to elaborate on what the changes are and why.
Mr. Eubank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor Naxted. So this is one of those items that was taken to the Airport Commission, and when the Airport Commission went through the proposed special use permit, they noticed a couple of things that they recommended changes. Some of these are some housekeeping things. The changes are highlighted in the memo that was in the laydown. One of the changes was in section 1 of the special use permit, which is the premises section. They wish to add the word commercial so that section now reads permittee shall have, and they're also deleting non-exclusive. So it will read now, permittee shall have the right to use the commercial floatplane basin parking spot 9 as described in the attached Exhibit A for the uses identified in the permit. In Section 7, this is, Section 7 is the coordination with airport management section of the permit. They have a few words they're deleting and adding some at the end. I'll just read it as it is being presented in the substitute. So coordination with the airport management permittee shall abide by all reasonable decisions and directives of the airport management regarding use of the airport by permittee germane to a commercial entity. And then in the last section, the original special use permit had left Kenai Aviation in there, and that needed to be replaced with River Rock Outdoors. So section 25 under definitions, as used in the permittee means River Rock Outdoors, and where context reasonably indicates its officers, agents, and employees. Airport means Kenai Municipal Airport. Those are the differences.
Any further discussion on the substitute, I guess it would be the substitute special use permit? So now we have the overall approval before us. Any further discussion?
Request unanimous consent.
Thank you. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, that the special use permit to Jeremy Mastre doing business as River Rock Outdoors is approved. Next up, now we're on to item H7, which is action approval, authorizing a letter of support for House Bill 173 to raise the threshold for municipal contracts qualifying for Little Davis-Bacon Act. I entertain a motion to approve this. Vice Mayor Nexton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to authorize a letter in support of House Bill 173.
Second.
We have a overview from the administration. Mr. Eubank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So I believe through the city clerk's office, the city did receive a request from Representative McCabe's Chief of Staff for letters of support regarding House Bill 173. The only changes taking place in House Bill 173, and it's actually on page 52 of your packet, is amending the threshold amount for where the Little Davis-Bacon Act applies. It would be increasing it from what is currently $25,000 to $150,000. When we looked at that from the administration's point of view, we do believe that increasing that threshold will result in some lower costs on projects for the city. We also believe it would likely increase competition for the work on some of those projects. And we would, from our standpoint, we would be supportive of this amendment. And so we thought we'd bring it before council at the request of Councilmember Naxed for this discussion. And if passed, we will be happy to send that letter of support.
Councilmember Basin.
Thank you, Mayor. If I remember right, with the information that we received, a lot of other municipalities in the same situation as the city of Kenai has signed on or have sent support letters also, if I remember right on seeing this. And then maybe a little discussion dealing with Little Davis-Bacon wages, the complexity of what that means to a group if they're trying to bid on a project, this threshold, what that means to them, what they would have to do compared to what they do now. It's under the threshold, if I'm saying that correctly for you.
Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Basin, and I may call on our Public Works Director to chime in a little bit here, but the information that was provided in the email from Representative McCabe's Chief of Staff, I believe it included like 3 different chambers of commerce, and I believe the Mat-Su Borough potentially weighed in at this time. I haven't seen any other letters of support, but there definitely was support from some chambers of commerce and, at least the Mat-Su Borough. The reason why I say I think it would increase competition for city projects is because there are a number of contractors out there that don't want to deal with the complexity of the paperwork regarding the Little Davis-Bacon Act. It basically requires the payment of prevailing wage on projects public projects over $25,000. And Mr. Kurt, maybe you could elaborate on what that actual paperwork entails, but I know it's a discouragement, and some contractors frankly just don't want to deal with it, so they don't bid on those small projects because it's not worth the money to do it. But I'll let the Public Works Director expand.
Yeah, thank you, through the City Manager Eubanks. So it's actually not as complex here in Alaska as it is in other states. So it all has to do with the source of the funds. We're spending, public dollars. And there's a difference between state funding and federal funding often. And here in Alaska, our state wages are always on par, if not greater than the federal wage for the same position. That's not always the case across the country. So occasionally there might be a state that actually pays less than what the federal wage is. And if it's state funds, they can do that. If it's federal funds, they can't. So here we're pretty much dealing with the same wage for, say a whatever tradesman, a steel worker, concrete person, whatever. They're pretty consistent from state to federal. So when a project comes out, and as Terry mentioned, it's a construction contract in excess of $25,000. My department files a notice of work with the State Department of Labor, and it creates a project number, which is then sent to that contractor. That contractor then has to list the subcontractors that are going to be working in support of that project. And then as the project proceeds, every payroll, they have to submit each person that received a paycheck in support of that project. So they'll have what day of the week, what hours, and it's all online. It's a form, but you have to do it, and it's something you have to do for every employee that works in support of the project for the duration of the project. So it's not a one thing and you're done. So on some of these, like the terminal project, for example, that was over a year. So that contractor was doing that every, pay period for, 15 months in support of that project. So depending on the complexity of the job, it could be an extensive amount of work. Smaller projects, less so. Happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Further discussion? Councilmember Next, or Vice Mayor Nexon.
Thank you. I guess from the city's perspective, or maybe the other direction, where we do have 25,000 is a pretty small threshold. We have a project out there of some sort that's about $20,000, and that's what we contract to do. But as a lot of projects go, it increases to $30,000 currently. So under that scenario, where does that leave the contractor in the city? Now we have a project that's actually $30,000. Does that go all the way back to the beginning? On a project like that? I think that it does, but you
Yes.
want to explain the difficulties with that.
So through the city manager and Councilmember Vice Mayor Nexted, that is a fantastic question. It is something that we do concern ourselves with, and we try to avoid that situation whenever possible on how we kind of situate the project. We have had it happen on occasion, and when that has happened, we have made it a DOL project just to protect the city and avoid any potential, issues coming to light during an audit, whether it's our audit or DOL or something like that coming up 2-3 years after the fact, and then we're trying to correct issues. So yes, so if we had a contract that was 20 and it went to 30, we would go back and it would become a DOL project, and we would backtrack on some paperwork. Doesn't happen often, but it does happen.
Councilmember Bazin.
No, thank you, Mayor. So if I'm hearing correctly, what this will do for the city is that these contracts that are under $150,000, we should see hopefully more competition for this type of projects if this threshold was to increase. Would you agree with that?
Through the mayor and Councilmember Baisden. There's no question that there are contractors that just refuse to educate themselves on how this process works. In my personal opinion, I I think it's an educational thing. I personally don't think that this is a overly complicated thing to do, but I'm amazed at how many individuals just refuse to do this. They just don't want to get into it. It's just too complicated for them. They have plenty of other work that doesn't require it, and they just choose not to. So yes, I think avoiding that and would open up, some contractors, certainly. I think education in a lot of this, we've helped other individuals walk through this process, and once we've gotten to the end of that, they're a little surprised that it wasn't as bad as what they thought it was going to be. I'll give you an example. The contractor that's doing our beetle kill mitigation right now, Doug Cook, doesn't do a lot of these, and we helped walk him through that process, and he's able to get through it. And I think after you do it a couple of times, it just becomes part of what you have to do to work.
Just to follow up, so, but the biggest issue with these contractors, and, you're dealing with somebody like that, is certified payroll. It takes them more time and effort to do that, to where if this is eliminated, you should see more small contractors here bid on projects, is what I'm getting to.
Yes, I think that's a fair statement, absolutely.
Yes, I do have a question as well. So would this apply to City of Kenai general fund contracts, like, for example, a bid to do our street lighting, that was $40,000, where does that fall in, Mr. Curtin?
Through the mayor, again, great question. And the most appropriate answer is it depends. It depends on the nature of the work. So the first page, when you go to the Title 36 Davis-Bacon wages on the state's website, it tells you what this triggers, and it's a public construction contract in excess of $25,000. So if your project meets that definition, it does. Certain maintenance activities might not require that. So it just depends on what it is. But if it's a public construction contract in excess of $25,000, it triggers this requirement.
Very good, thank you. Further discussion? Councilmember Basin.
Thank you, Mayor. Maybe further discussion for us up here on the city manager's memo. I don't know if it'd make a difference or not, but if this body was to unanimously move forward with this, can we have something added to this that states that the city council was unanimous in this decision? I don't know if that helped, not just if they see that too, that this body took it up.
Mr. Eubank?
Okay. Did I miss it?
I'm sorry if I missed that.
But,
We certainly can add it if that's the pleasure of council, so.
Further discussion?
request unanimous consent?
Very good. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, then we have approved the authorization of a letter for support for House Bill 173 to raise the threshold for municipal contracts qualifying for Little Davis-Bacon Act. That brings us to commission committee reports. Council on Aging.
Thank you, Mayor. If I could, I'd like to defer to Councilmember Askin, who I think attended that for me the last meeting.
I did, yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Askin.
So the Council on Aging met on Thursday, the 11th of April, and their main item of business was they approved the Aging Commission 2024 Annual Work Plan, and Director Romaine gave a very short report on the success of the March for Meals program, and they raised upwards of $60,000. And their next meeting is May 9th.
Thank you. Airport Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. The Airport Commission met on April 11th. They started with a work session and an hour before the regular meeting and discussed the annual work plan for the Airport Commission. They had, for the previous meeting, about 12 possible goals. And at this meeting, they had prepared 3. And they discussed those and really didn't get to the end of where they wanted to be, so I think they're going to have another work session to discuss their goals for next year. And so that'll continue. On their, for their general meeting, they did recommend the special use permit for Jerry Mastery that we talked about this evening. Their next meeting will be May 9th, and Council Member Sonart will be covering that one for me.
Thank you. Harbor Commission?
Harbor Commission was canceled due to lack of agenda items. Their next meeting is May 6th.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation Commission?
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I'm going to defer back to Councilmember Naxted, who attended this meeting for me.
Vice Mayor Nexon?
Thank you, Mayor and Councilmember Sonart. I was happy to attend the Parks and Rec meeting. They had a work session as well on April 4th, and that meeting was to discuss their annual work plan for Parks and Rec. And I understand that that commission also had about 11 possibilities from the previous meeting, but what they brought forth was 4 goals and objectives. And they were things like tour the parks twice annually, let me see here, master plans, project support, and CAP work sessions annually. What they did spend most of their time talking about was, not to go over this too deeply, they did approve their plan, but it basically provides direction toward the director on information that they want the director to provide on different kinds of complaints and comments that they're getting from the public, so that they can see what those are, so that they can evaluate them and determine maybe fixes or what they might be able to do. The question is whether they should be, giving the director direction or not, and which may not be appropriate, because the director doesn't work for us and doesn't work for them either. It works for the city manager. However, I think the feeling was well, we kind of need to know what the public concerns might be. If it's the dog park or something like that in the springtime, things that are showing up, and we want to know, and how that happens will be determined maybe at a later date. But they did spend most of the hour talking about this, so that's why I'm spending some time now on it, and particularly this item right here. So that'll be something we'll handle in our regular business at some point. Then they went into the regular meeting, and they recommended the council approve a special use. That's the Airport Commission. Now I'm at a bit of a loss, because I think I had 2 Airport Commission packets here. They recommended their agenda or their calendar for next year, and what was the other thing, Clerk, since I don't seem to have it here? Is your memory better than mine?
Thought it was just the work plan and their schedule.
Oh, here it is. They approved they approved the parks work plan, and then their commission meeting calendar. Apologize for that. Lots of paper on my desk here. Their next meeting is May 2nd.
Vice Mayor Next has been pretty busy. He's also got a report of something that I missed because I was gone as well. So, Planning and Zoning Commission.
Their last meeting was canceled due to lack of agenda items, and then they have a meeting coming up on the 24th. I haven't heard that it's been canceled, so I'm assuming we've had a couple cancels in a row, so I'm guessing there's probably going to be some stuff on that one, I would assume.
Beautification.
So beautification met on the 9th and started their work plan. They're off to a little bit of a late start, though, and so a lot of ideas were tossed back and forth with planning days and garden tours, winter tours, just spitballing back and forth. Nothing concrete yet. They're going to take all the ideas that were discussed and have a more concrete work plan at the next meeting on the 14th.
Thank you. Under report of the mayor, I've got several items. Last Friday, the city manager and I met with the Boys and Girls Club, and they gave us an update of where they're at with their campus build-out and their projection for construction this summer regarding renovations to the existing building, and then site work for the for the other building that they're planning for this summer, and then also the parking lot, expansion of the parking lot. It looks like they're tracking pretty well with their project scope, and it'll be nice to see that moving along. Today, we had as I mentioned earlier, we had our 6th annual State of the City address at the Chamber. And we had several council members there, but really appreciate the Chamber hosting us to do that. And, you know, as we prep for that every year, want to give a shout out to Christine Cunningham, who does a lot of the behind-the-scenes work on that presentation, but also all of our department heads that, supply the highlights of what they accomplished the previous year. And one of the things that we have to do, just because of time restraints, is to pare that down pretty substantially, because if we didn't do that, we'd have a 2-hour presentation. So it just gives you, for me at least, a really good insight into how proactive our city departments are and our employees, and what an asset they are to the city. Lastly, I just wanted to say I was out of town and missed the March for Meals. I was looking forward to that theme, that James Bond theme. Always wanted to sort of use that British accent and have a reason to, without having my wife be too upset about it. But maybe next year, and hopefully they'll come up with their theme pretty soon for next year. So with that, I will go to administration reports and city manager, Mr. Eubank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I was going to start off as well with that State of the City. Thank you again, Sam, and I appreciate presenting that with the mayor. It's always one of the highlights of the year. Last Friday, I believe, the state Senate, passed their version of the capital budget over to the House for consideration. Senator Bjorkman included $895,000 worth of City of Kenai projects in that capital budget. Things varying from lift stations to streetlight repairs, a couple of vehicles, senior center canopy repairs. So we're really excited and appreciative that the senator was able to include those items, and we'll be working with Representative Ruffridge on the House side, hopefully make those items stick, and then try to work with the governor and see if we can avoid the red pen this year. We had a project cut last year, so hopefully we can avoid that this year. Also included in that of note, certainly not a grant coming directly to the city, but funding for the bridge access pedestrian pathway. That's that bike path from corner of the Spur Highway to Beaver Loop is in there for funding. I believe that's with federal funds, but it's just nice to see that project receiving funding and hopefully moving on, getting close to construction there. So glad to see that was in there. April 14th through April 20th is National Public Safety Communicator Week. This would be for our dispatch center over there and our dispatch employees. And it's also National Animal Control Officer Week. So I think it's just important to remember the work of those departments. So anyways, they do a great job. And, they're kind of one of those quiet departments behind the scenes, but they're really vital to operations here at the city. So I know the finance department's continuing to work on the FY 2025 proposed budget, with that work session coming up on May 4th, and still with a target date of budget draft being released this Friday. So continuing to work on that. I do want to recognize, and I thought Tony might be here, but he's not, our fire chief, Chief Pryor, his last day with the city is going to be April 30th. He's retiring from the city after 27 years of public service to the citizens of Kenai. He's had a long and Tony started with this department as a firefighter, and now he's our chief. I think it's a great success story. We want to wish him the best of luck in the future. He is moving to Sisters, Oregon to take a fire chief job down there. So good luck to Tony and his future adventures there. Our storefront and streetscape improvement grant applications will be released this Friday, April 19th. We'll be accepting those applications through May 17th. There's $50,000 in the FY 2024 budget for eligible projects, so we'll see how many applications we get. And, but that's on the horizon there. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions of the city manager? Seeing none, we'll go to our city attorney, Mr. Bloom.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel, members of council. I don't have anything to report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Bloom? Seeing none, we'll go to our city clerk, Ms. Sainer.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I have nothing to report this evening, available for questions.
Thank you. Any questions of the city clerk? Seeing none, we'll go to additional public comment. Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to address the council at this time? Seeing nobody in chamber or online, next we'll go to council comments. Let's start out with Councilmember Dothan.
One thing I was supposed to mention, as I was so kindly reminded that Sam didn't mention, was the raffle tickets that are for sale for the chamber to help benefit some funding for Moose Meat John cabin repairs. They are available. I will have them available. I don't have them on me right now, but you can also go online. I will bring some to the next meeting, so if anybody wants them, they're $50 a piece, and they are for 2 round-trip air tickets on Alaska Airlines, and then also a winery tour in California and tasting. So you can use this ticket separately. You don't have to go to the tasting. You can use them just to wherever you want to fly and go somewhere else if you wish, but they're together in a package, so you can use them together if you'd like. And then that is about all I've got. Oh, I did want to say, I'm not exactly sure when the opening date is, but there's going to be a new custom car shop coming to town, it looks like, over there next to the Kenai Electric Building right across from Salvation Army, right in that same building where there used to be the thrift store. Looks like a pretty sharp building. They're going to be doing like custom like window tinting and those kind of things, it sounds like. So excited to see that. Another new business moving to town, taking up an empty storefront. So that's about it.
Thank you, Councilmember Dothan, or I'm sorry, Councilmember Sonhart. Yeah, I got you.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. See what happens when I get associated with the rowdy table at the March for Meals? Right? Yeah. March for Meals, I'm so excited to hear about the success of that evening. That's just wonderful news. And it was a great evening, lots of fun, lots of laughter. And I don't think I'll ever think of the martini drink again the same. Congratulations, Councilmember Askin.
Councilmember Askin.
Thank you. I'm surprised I wore it, but I did. Had a great time at that, and today my dad is 93 years old.
Wish him a happy birthday from the council, if you don't mind. Councilmember Daniel.
Yes, the fundraiser was a lot of fun, just put it mildly. So really appreciate the opportunity to go, and thank you for telling me all about it. Miss Kathy was great. We had a great time, and it's really surprising to me how, I mean, we all know it, but it's always surprises me every time how generous the community can be when they come together. Mm-hmm. And it just always amazes me, like, oh wow, that much money, it's just crazy. And then the need for it. So I'm always just impressed by it, by our generosity as a community. So anyways, thank you.
Councilmember Basin.
I have nothing to share.
Vice Mayor Nexon.
Thank you. Yeah, the March of Meals was a lot of fun, and I was sitting next to the martini glass. There was barely room for me, but we made it work. But it was a great fun, great evening, and I look forward to doing that again next year. And I did attend the State of the City this afternoon, and the mayor and the city manager did an excellent job. You know, these are all things that we're familiar with, but it's hold them all together, and it's like, well, the city really is doing an awful lot, and you know, proud to be a part of it. So thank you for doing that. The last thing I've got, and I covered for the mayor while he was out. I attended a meeting in the borough mayor's office with the borough mayor and the vice mayor of the city of Soldotna. Curtis Thayer was there, and he had 3 projects to share with me, and I've got the brochures on them. And if I may, they're big projects in our backyard here. The first one is the Dixon Diversion Project. And what that is, it's a Dixon Glacier, which is near the Bradley Lake Project, just at the head of Kachemak Bay. They're going to dam this glacier creek and drill a 14-foot diameter hole about, 4.7 miles over to the Bradley Lake, and then divert all that water over there, raise the Bradley Lake Dam another 14 feet, so it'll have more head pressure to produce more electricity that comes up in that whole process. And that is a $342 million project. It's in design, and it's expected to be, happening here in the next few years. $342 million. And the other project that's pretty much underway, they call it the SSQ transmission upgrade, and that is a $90 million project, and that is a transmission upgrade from the Quartz Creek substation, where that is on the way to Anchorage, and it brings some new lines all the way into Sterling, basically. And they've acquired, it's 54 miles long, and they've acquired the right-of-way, and there'll be new poles and whatnot. And there's some details in here on that as well. And then the last item is the submarine HVDC line. And what that really is, it's a high-voltage DC line, but it will go from Bernice Lake substation in Nikiski under the inlet to the Beluga power plant up there. And that is a $413 million project, and it'll be just laid on the bottom, maybe but slightly buried. And if they have money and it's feasible, they'll do what they call the BESS project, and that's basically the same thing that Homer Electric has done at the Soldotna substation with all those batteries, those Tesla batteries, I believe. But they've got two that they're looking at doing in the south central area. But that's after they lay that line. And what this provides primarily is for Anchorage and the rail belt, some redundancies and improved transmission of electricity. So a lot of money potentially is going to be coming through our area on that. And that's all I have.
And thank you for attending that. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
And with that, we have no executive session or pending items, and seeing no other business for this body, we are adjourned. It was close. Once you got the baton at 6:44.